Hey guys, Kino DVT here, and I'm bringing you a game which I recently pulled down from the Starcraft forums, which is going to be one of my more educational games because it's to do with a cheese build. The game was provided by Shadowwisp, and it's concerning a 4-gate from Epicfailure. So we are dealing with Shadowwisp versus Epicfailure on the map Lost Temple. Don't quote me on that. I'm pretty sure it's Lost Temple, but I'm not 100% sure. Now, one of the questions posted on the forums was, what should I have done? I thought roaches, but I went mastling, whatever. So it was all along those lines, so he wasn't exactly sure what to do. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to provide what I would have done at the time with what I had, what in hindsight was like the perfect counter, and anything else that comes to mind. So let's get this game underway, and this is fairly good spawning positions. It doesn't favour the rush because it is the longest spawning position on the map. Well, it's the second longest. The longest is corner to corner, but he has to go all the way around, and if you can get even 1 or 2 ranged units up here, you can make his life very, very difficult. But ranged units for Zerg aren't exactly long range in the beginning. So this was a ladder match. I believe it was a gold level ladder match. I'm not entirely sure of that, but there we go. That's just some more background information. Shadowwisp going for I don't know whether it's a 9 or 10 Overlord, scouting the standard position, always wise. Yep, standard position as well. 9 Pylon from Epicfailure, so nothing wrong with that. Both scouting at about the same time, around the 9-10 worker amount, so fairly similar that way. Shadowwisp hasn't laid down a expansion or spawning pool yet, and Epicfailure hasn't laid down a gateway yet. He could go for an expansion, but that would be highline. There goes the gateway, and I think here comes the Yep, there's the expansion going up very, very shortly in like 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, go. There we go. And yeah, so one of the big problems I have is interpreting scouting information. Another big problem I have is interpreting scouting information and then doing something about it. Because quite often I'll do something and ignore it. I'll just see something and ignore it. And I do it a lot, and I do it without realizing, so it's never really a good idea. But people do it, laying down a 15 pool after a 16 hatch, so it has now been scouted by Epicfailure, so this may have been the reason why he went 4-gate, because he saw an expansion and thought, I'm going to punish you for it. The only time I wouldn't advise going for an early expand on a 4-player map is in the opposite spawning position, because then it's very easy to put early pressure on with one zealot who just has to go there. And it takes almost no time, and I almost guarantee that you're going to lose the expansion. But then again, maybe not. Some people maybe don't think like that. I don't know. Some people might see the expansion and go, right, I should now expand. Pardon me, it is still fairly hot in Australia, and I am drinking regularly. We do see him popping down a spawning pool. He hasn't gone for speed yet. Probably should have pulled out production a little earlier. We get a queen and 2 lings coming out. We can see warp gate and another gateway coming out as well. Very, very good overlord placement. He can see the moving out of an army, which I rather like. With his first set of lings, I would take 1 there and 1 there, which will allow him to have great sight over what his opponent is doing. But again, it's more important to have good scouting information. So if we look at Epicfailure's cam, we can see he knows pretty much everything, which is one of the problems with Zerg, because once you've laid down the production building, they pretty much know you've got it. But as we can see with Shadowwisp, he hasn't actually seen a pylon gateway gas. He doesn't know anything but his opponent's there. So it's kind of hard to go, well, I think he's going 4-gate or whatever. from that. So that makes things fairly problematic for the... but we do see a poke up with 2 lings. This I'm not exactly sure how much I like, because I would just use 1 ling and not 2. 2 might get you more scouting information, but again, 1's just better, I think. So he does now see 3 gateways plus a chrono boosted cybernetics core. He sees the 4th gateway going down, and he sees 2 gas. Now from this you expect 4 gate. I mean, you see 4 gate, but I would expect 4 gate with a mix of zealots, stalkers and sentries. So this is where it starts to get complicated. Now what he's done is he hasn't laid down anything yet. So he hasn't actually laid down any tech. He has put down 1 spine crawler and is producing 20 zerglings. 20 zerglings is a good amount. He will be able to defend from most early pushes, but he doesn't have banelings. Now I would have gone baneling zergling if I had seen this coming, because banelings deal with the zealots and lings deal with the stalker sentry. So that's what I would have done, and I think it would have worked. Now with this spine crawler, queen and amount of lings, I'm pretty sure he will be able to defend from this. Also, given that he can see it coming via this overlord if he was intelligent. That's kind of cool. He can't actually see the overlord. I was not aware of that. That is a epic placement then, because the overlord cannot be seen. I wonder if they can see the shadow. They can't. He has... right, he can now see the shadow, he can now see the overlord due to the fact he's taken the watchtower. So this is getting to be quite a frightening force, but there is a very, very large amount of lings out on the map, which can complicate things. So this amount of lings is going to probably win this confrontation. I can't be sure. Zealots do fairly well against lings, but he does have a crap load of lings. He is also getting level 1 weapons, but he has pumped out more zealots, which will make things problematic. Now, he hasn't yet engaged near his own... he's losing lots of lings here, and he hasn't engaged near his 2 queens or spine crawlers, which I'm not exactly sure how much I like. He is going after the reinforcements, which is a good idea, but he did lose a lot of lings doing so. However, he is now going to see if he can hit his opponent's base, which I rather like. And given that there's only a couple of zealots, once he gets through, he will deal a large amount of damage, and the army is still chasing, but... yeah, so that didn't really go as well as it could. He has pumped a lot of zealots out, and he's continuing to pump lings. Now at this point you have 300 gas. What I would do is lay down a baneling nest, because that's what you really need. But he hasn't, and it's starting to get problematic. The other thing you could do is roaches. Roaches, banelings, and lings would just be the ultimate combo. So we do see 2 spine crawlers and a queen. 2 spine crawlers and a queen, and this amount of lings should be able to hold off this attack. Not necessarily, but it should. Now another queen up there might not be a bad idea in this kind of situation, and we can see that there are a large amount of zealots, and it might have been a better idea. I mean, I'm just... a couple of banelings and all these zealots go, then your lings start to deal with the stalkers, and that's really easy. But zealots do fairly chew through lings, which is where it starts to get complicated. So, I mean, he defended well, he's got the right amount of units, so it's not like he's skimpy or anything. He tried to go after his opponent's base, which was good. He's pulling workers off the mineral line to get that tiny advantage, and that was maybe a little bit mistimed. It would have been better when the lings... like, if he pulled in the workers now, when the lings were spawning, I think he might have been able to hold it off, but otherwise it was a bit risky. But for me it came down to Shadowwisp just stuck with lings, and he either needed roaches or banelings. Banelings would have been my preference, because that would have countered the zealots, and then your lings counter the stalkers. So that would have been my preference, but maybe not everyone's. So this is a fairly hard 4-gate. The guy has been intelligent. He's just laid down an expansion when he's putting on lots of pressure. So he is going to have an expo at the end of this. But again, 2 or 3 banelings, you get rid of all of that. The rest of the banelings can go bounce off there, and then your Zerglings can clean it up, and he does have 400 gas left over, so he would have been able to pull it off. But Mass Zealot isn't too bad at dealing with this, but you just need one more unit, and then it would have just been perfect. You would have been able to hold it off for eternity. I mean, the 2 Spinecrawlers were great. A Spinecrawler up there would have been kind of epic. You would have just been like, pinio, pinio, pinio. That's an interesting idea. Yeah, okay. Spinecrawler up there for the win. But GG, it was close, Shadow. You just needed one other unit, whether it be Roaches or Banelings. Either way, you would have been able to hold it off. So you had the right idea with a Spinecrawler and your Queen and your Zerglings, but you just needed another unit. So well played, but well played on both players' part. Just one timing mistake, which hopefully you should be able to rectify for next time. This is Kino DVT, hoping this has been a little more educational, and ciao.